Whoa. Welcome. So welcome to the first 2026 Bolt Design System meeting. Very exciting. I thought maybe in light of us posting this to YouTube that maybe we just do a quick round the room and I will just flash up the Big Jam with everybody on it for good context. I just need to find my share. Cool. Maybe I'll just go left to right minus Jesse, who's our UX specialist, who's not here right now. And then I'll go to Martin just to say hello.
Hi, I'm Martin and I work on the front end of Thunderbird desktop.
Nice. And then over to Wolf.
Hi, I'm Wolf. I'm working on the Android UI for Thunderbird and the board design system integration.
Excellent. Thank you. And Todd.
And I'm Wolf's counterpart. I'm working on the iOS side of Thunderbird mobile.
Awesome. Exciting. Melissa can't be here today. She's works on our web services UI engineering. And then I will pass it to Richard.
Yes, so I'm Richard Marty and I'm a community contributor and working, I think, a lot on the themes. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Amanda can't make it, but Amanda is a UI designer. So she, hopefully I'll have to reach out to her. Sometimes she has a conflict with work. So, and then I think that last doorbell, or no, wait, I think that was Jesse, but Alessandro, I'll pass to you next. Yeah.
Hello. I'm Alessandro. I'm the director of desktop and mobile apps at Thunderbird. Sometimes I help with design, unsolicited advice, and yeah, thank you.
Awesome, thanks. And Jesse, just a quick intro.
Hello, Jesse, senior UX specialist here, and ready to help you out with all usability and consistency and system stuff that I can possibly contribute to. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Jesse. And I'm Laurel. I'm the design manager here at Thunderbird, handling lots of things, UI, UX, accessibility, all the good stuff for our users. All right. So now that I've got this up too, I will just flash up our 2026 roadmap for a quick second here. I will also just share this big jump file in the chat so that everybody has it in case you want to look at it on your own side. And I'll just give a really high level overview. This is what we came up with from our workshops last year for focus. You'll see here, so I have two sections here. One's for the Design System Governance Committee, and then the other one's for the Bolt Design System, because we naturally work contributing and building up the design system internal too. So there's a little bit separate focus sometimes from what we're doing with the committee and what we're doing for the design system too, but they both interlock. So high level in Q1 is a lot of look at our tokens, which we'll talk more about that today, getting that really strong foundation in there. We will also be looking at getting versioning and the whole process around that set up for everybody so that we can start tracking things a little bit better. And then we're hoping to expose our storybook libraries as much as we can to the public or to our community and get some base guidelines in for accessibility. So yeah, and then let's see, Q2, we're looking more at, for web, looking at responsive primitives. So making sure our components are in there and they're really good and responsive. Again, continuing work on exposing those libraries. And then taking accessibility a step further into building good component rules. In terms of governance too, in Q2, we'll be ensuring that there's clear pathways for contribution and making sure that standards are out there so that people want to make use of the design system for any design or solve that they're doing, there's good documentation. And then we'll look at setting up some good cross-team and community collaboration rituals. So integrating the design system into all things, which we already have a really good handle on. Q3, which seems so far away because that's when things will be warm again in the Northern Hemisphere. So getting a little bit deeper into those responsive components, maybe looking at some theming things as we switch, have a little bit more things that they're applied to. And then a little bit more deeper on semantic tokens, sure there's alignment there, and then re-looking at versioning again. And then for us too, ensuring that the component documentation is up to really good quality, and then making sure that there's alignment and consistency across all of our platforms. And then to the last of the year, we'll look at hardening general adoption of all the accessibility standards that we have in there, making sure that that's all good. And then also Storybook, same thing, and then versioning. So it's like tying it up, making sure that's super stable out there, and then we can move on into whatever 2027 brings us. So that's the roadmap. Anyone have any questions on that before I move on?
More than a question, a curiosity right now.
Yeah.
I think maybe this is probably too deep, too technical, but like the implementation of the storybook, if you have any idea how we can solidify everything into one place, because like the desktop as storybook, you build through the desktop, and then you have like mobile storybook, web storybook. Are we gonna temporarily have all those separate, or there's a path for unification, even if it's possible?
Yeah. I the latter I want for sure, but I think as it is short term, they probably will be a bit separate. I think that's part of this work this year is how do we harmonize everything. I know for me, especially because we pivoted some things with spacing and not with iOS, there's much more alignment between Android, iOS, and web, and desktop is a little bit of the outlier always, right, with its 3-pixel bit. So yeah, trying to figure out where we can line things up, and but I do think probably initially stuff has to be a little bit separate, but bringing them together would be ideal where we can. Obviously, Android and iOS are also unique in terms of how we can expose components, which we haven't quite resolved because they both, well, there's a plugin for Android, but there isn't for iOS to expose them. So we'll need to talk deeper as the year goes on that point. I think that's a good focus. Yeah. All right. So tokens. This is my main focus today. Just maybe like reviewing a bit of the materials that we have. I've just called this section tokens. Tokens really, if we're using them to the best of their optimal place, they're like the underlying foundation that tie all of the nuance between platforms together. And like I said, desktop being that outlier there requires there's some different tokens for it. So one day maybe it can be all unified, which would be great. So just know this is all still in this document too. We go there. Maybe I'll just flash this one up for a second. So there are, in terms of design maturity with tokens, there's often a primitive layer and a component layer. I almost want to move the star. I'm going to move it actually right now. We're like a little bit more over here now. And we're a little bit more focused on that semantic layer for tokens. And then obviously we have a component layer too for some of the nuance with them. This is a nice little template from Brad Frost that I like. That's really good to refer to. So a tier 1 is how we define our tokens by primitives. So a lot of times if I zoom in here, this is like back in the day when we would have like yellow 500. Yellow 400, and really breaking things down into these little defined steps. As we take that forward into more of a semantic land, they become more purposeful with an alias or a theme. So you've seen that with some of our colors where we have different surface layers in there, a little bit more defined towards their use. So yeah, there's more. These are kind of like categories, main big categories that we would have across them. And there's obviously, so I can leave this for everybody to dig into a little bit more. I'm being very high level here. And then tier 3 is when we're into the component and any overrides. So this is like we have I want to say a standard for a component, but sometimes there needs to be something adjusted for certain states. Yeah, it could be like also if we had multiple brands, you know, we're lucky here that we have a unified brand, who knows, but like if we had defined our tokens well and we had Thunderbird, which is always blue, and then we had something new that was the buttons were always purple, our tokens would be the thing that would shift that into each brand. And the brand would come as a prefix before. So that's just a little chart on tokens. Now, in terms of naming, let's just see, I'm gonna have to switch screens here. So yeah, I'll just switch this here. So there was recently W3 tokens, design tokens community group set up, and they've set up a W3 standard for tokens. Has anyone looked into this at all? Has anyone read some of their documentation? No. I would love for some of the devs to pick this up and read it, because I've read it from a design point of view. I would love to know from a dev point of view. There's still, I see I'm following the GitHub repository too, where they're committing things all the time and getting, working out some of the things in there. Yeah. Oh, great. Thank you, Todd. Yeah. Yeah. So if anyone, I don't know, over the course of the next month, if you're able to just take a peek at it from a dev point of view, that would be really handy. We should try to align and play along with it as much as possible. And with that, what I will bring up next is this one. Yeah. So this is more of a review. There's the chat there. Yeah. That's right, Martin. We don't have yellow 400 anymore. We have purposeful yellow. Warning. Oh, that's the wrong screen. Sorry. Still early for me. Where is it? Here. Okay. So there's a doc there's a Google Doc that we worked on last year, if everyone remembers, and you'll see this chart I flashed up here quickly. I could update this with the little star moved over. But we talked through some of our naming conventions last year too, so it might be worth just reviewing this if we need to make any adjustments towards what we see in the W3 design tokens documentation. So over the next month, I would say, let's all make sure that this is shipshape. Does everyone here remember this doc? Do I need to go through it more granularly?
I do remember it.
Mm-hmm.
There was I don't know if we talked about it this last year, but there was an intention, and I don't know how everybody feels about this, to also do what the W3C is doing, just opening repositories and putting these draft on a GitHub repository somewhere else so community can participate.
I would love that. I think we need a dedicated design system spot. Yeah, same as I want to have a separate design contribution spot too, that I'm going to guess that design system and normal design contributions will probably overlap there, but having a like code specific along with documentation would be really good. We have some of this housed in the Zero Height documentation site, but I think let's let's get it in all the good spots where people can find it. Yeah. I can't see everybody else. I'm going to assume you're nodding. He nods. I see smiles, but I think they're in.
They're all shaking their heads. It's not. No, this is horrible. Yes.
Yeah. So so the goal with naming conventions is to ensure that there's really good consistency across design and code. Like in design, we don't want to be calling something super different than what we're calling it in code. It should be one-to-one so that it's all matched up and we're all speaking the same language. That's a key thing. So yeah, so this went into just general guidelines, and then yeah, we had some categories in here. I'm going to guess that we probably want to build this out a little bit more. I'm trying to recall. I think we thought that this could be applied to all platforms, but now that we have iOS, Todd, I don't know if you've looked at this, and there might be something different with iOS that we need to harmonize with. Yeah.
I haven't actually looked at this yet, but
Yeah.
it should be, as far as naming
be.
conventions and stuff like that, should be fine.
Should be good. Okay.
It works for Android. It should work for iOS.
It should? Okay, in a perfect world.
Yeah.
We love that. Yes, yes. Desktop, we will tame into alignment somehow. It feels like it's always the one that's a little bit different. Okay, great. Then I will just say, like, yeah, let's just, over the next little bit, let's just review these things and make sure that they're all tight, and then they can kind of sit. A while back, we decided that someone from the design team would take ownership over the tokens, just to make sure they're, once we get everything aligned, things are set. And then if there's any changes and additions that we would communicate out. And I know that I did some examples of trying to pump out a JSON file from Figma and from Penpot. I feel like I need to revisit that again over the next little bit and see where it's working and where it's not. I recall there was some issues, and I couldn't do a global one. I think that was part of it. So I need to refresh myself with that process. I think that JSON was almost a bit better for web, but I'm not sure if it was helpful anywhere else. So anyways, that's an action for me, is to look back at that so I can communicate with you all well on that.
Yeah, usually JSON
yeah.
is a good format because also can be imported in other design
Exactly.
applications. So
yeah, exactly. If you read through the design token, the W3 standard, that everything's formatted to JSON standard. I just don't know that it's if there's a benefit to pumping it out from one of the design tools. Some of them are kind of a little funny, and I don't know that if they're totally aligned with the new W3 standards. So I have questions that we need to look at, I think. What did I put down questions here? Oh, I put like an open question for the group. This is like more of an informative thing. Where are tokens required? Why do we need them? Why are they important?
yes, the general answer,
they're
yes.
the glue. They're
Yes
the
to
glue of
everything.
everything.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, without tokens, we would continue doing what we've always been doing, which is making specific decisions on the spot that affect the general direction of everything, and there's no consistency, and it's very difficult to yeah, I don't know. Like, I think like the general idea is that if a contributor jumps into Thunderbird, whatever it is, like desktop mobile services, we shouldn't force our contributors to relearn everything from scratch for every single repository, even if the colors are visually the same, but the way that we implement them, it's completely different across all the repositories. It makes it harder for us to maintain consistency. It makes it harder for contributors to jump in and contribute. And yeah, we end up maintaining a completely different visual identity or general rules for each repository, and that doesn't scale.
Totally. I think it's like solid base so that we can focus on things that matter, the larger issues that we have at hand. Jesse, yeah, go ahead. Thanks. I could see your hand. That was awesome.
Cool, huh? I love, yeah.
I love it.
the raised hand. I think actually I was going to say this right before the last couple sentences that you said, which it might be redundant with, but whenever I'm making like granular decisions that are below strategic level, I want tokens to be available as my resource because like every time you have to do that, the first thing you think is there a standard that we always use here? And if I have to make something up, is it going to suddenly introduce a bunch of inconsistency? So for me, that's at least where I run across the need for tokens on a practically daily basis. So yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to be wasting all your brain power on are the corners 24 or 16 or 8
Yeah.
or 9? Yeah, totally.
And should I type in a hexadecimal code for a color right now? I really
Yeah.
hope like that kind of decision.
Yeah. I remember the days when I used to have a lot. It's like phone numbers. I used to have a lot of phone numbers memorized. I used to have a lot of hex colors memorized too.
There was a party trick figuring out like the right hex color. Somebody would say, "Okay, give me a hex color for a lime green," and if you could pop one out, it was like
Yeah.
your design party trick.
Ooh, we're bringing that to when we have our team meeting next.
What kind of parties were you like? Were you guys attending? I'm like, what is this?
Yeah, they were pretty lame.
I also think about it very much from like a parameterized design standpoint, where everything that we want to be able to change in unison needs to use the same token. So the obvious example is like if we want to change our brand color, we have one place where we have to update it, and it'll change everywhere, right? So like making sure that we have one source of truth and not 50.
Yeah, totally.
But I mean the parameterization goes further, right? Like with especially when we get into sizings and such, where it's very much about being able to scale things and adapt, not just the very core base values, but also building the framework so that, for example, with density on desktop, so we are flexible and only need to write the code once in the end or think about the design once, and it implies how it behaves for the other cases.
Totally. It infuses out. I had to update my phone to iOS 26.2, I think, recently. I have a lot to say about that, but they did increase larger spacing. So you can imagine that they just changed a couple of base tokens and then that infused out through all of their components, which makes things way easier. So.
Yeah, or another easy example is for like high contrast, right? You have defined mappings of how tokens behave in those kind of environments.
Totally. Yeah. Anyone else want to weigh in on the topic? Oh. Yeah, nice. Okay, great. Awesome. They're very important. We'll get them. That's why I think spending the next month getting things solid there, and then we can start to define some other bits. So the second question here was, how do we want to document them? And I think that is almost the task at hand as we kind of leave this meeting, right? We'll review the W3 spec, our own naming conventions, and then our JSON file exports in that. So, and I feel like Alessandra, you answered this one too. My prompt here was, do we need to create a design tokens directory in each of the design systems repository or create a standalone repository in order to store our theme design tokens? And I say theme, we have one theme here, but yeah, but I define theme there just in case we have more than one theme one day. Just wanted to call it out.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think, yeah, a single repository where we use it as a source of truth there, especially it's easier for our contributors to find and participate. Yeah, there's a future that also our whole design system could be in a repository. I don't know if there can be directly connected to zero height or that's the extra step that we take because on the repository is just a living draft and it's always there. And once things are finalized, we move them to zero height or I don't know. There's a decision that we can make in the future, but definitely having a single place where all design decisions and documentation and proposals can be in a form of PRs. I think it's more manageable. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. I'm pretty sure zero height can be integrated there, and that would be good as like a documentation point, and then it gives us the flexibility jumping off from that, I think. So we have a solid, I'm gonna call it a connected island or something. I don't know, metaphors. Um, yeah, yeah. Alessandra, is that like, can I like appoint you to that task to set that up, or
Yay. Yes.
or do you want me to talk with somebody else? Like
No,
I
no,
think
yeah, yeah.
Nalini
Appoint
might
me,
have. Okay.
appoint me to this. I will just bother other people and tell them
Okay.
to do. Yeah, yeah. Oh, Alessandro, nice, sexy name.
Oh, oops, sorry.
It's okay.
All that coffee and no breakfast.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, it's like playing Scrabble. You want to have extra S's. Win that way. Okay. Yeah, the last question was more broad. How do we want to communicate changes? Like we've got our matrix channel. I think we'll have more conversation when we get into talking about versioning and that. Any, this is a nice open question on many levels. There's our group, there's the team, there's the community, et cetera, et cetera.
I think at the beginning we could keep it simple because if we do the work on the repository, then when we reach a specific point, we do a release of our design token, design system, whatever, and then the release will have the change logs, or the change sets and everything that we change, and then we can share that on our mailing list or do a blog post, or I don't know. I don't know if it's worth considering opening a design system mailing list, or we can keep consuming and sharing things in the UX mailing list, or it's more broader like a TB planning.
I mean, I don't
communication.
think we need to share them out a lot. The more important part is to have actual documentation of the changes, right? That's the bit we don't have right now is, okay, this is the stuff that changed, so you can go look at it. Like it doesn't need to be
Yeah.
everywhere, but having it in the first place is the really important thing. And a repository can very much contain that without any problem.
Totally. Yeah. Any other thoughts? Jesse, do you have thoughts from a design point of view towards this? Actually, if I just call it out, because we do a lot of different things, I think, in our camp. That
Yeah, I mean the UX topic box list has been very responsive. The people who are really like interested in that side of what we do at Thunderbird seem to keep a close eye on it and be ready to jump in. So that's definitely a promising gateway, at least until we can figure out a more specific answer to that question. Um, I'm also in favor, especially if we're talking about things that may change regularly, but only on a small technical level, of like it being somewhere where people can just subscribe to it if they really care about working with it closely. But I admit there's a lot of tools in this space, and I'm not familiar enough with all of them to like really give like a firm recommendation so much as just like those are my thoughts. Yeah.
yeah. For example, I guess like in design, let's say we make a change to a border radius. I guess the ways that we communicate that right now is we just talk with whoever's working on said component, and then there's a bit of backpedaling there with dev. So we don't really have standard, and it goes beyond tokens a little bit, obviously into components a lot there, and projects drive these changes too. Is there any way that the engineers on the call would like to see documentation from design and specificity called out?
So at least for if we're talking about like just the tokens for now, because
Mhm.
I think
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
much easier to talk about, right?
yeah,
Assuming you have a JSON export, which I think is probably what we'll end up with in the
yeah,
repository, you commit those changes, you explain what the changes are, And then you can make a release in GitHub whenever you think we should actually adopt them, and put into the release what's changed between this release and the previous release. And everyone can subscribe to releases in GitHub repository. And there's an RSS feed and everything. So that kind of like addresses the entire pipeline if we just use a GitHub repository that we commit the JSON file and just do the actual work to add the little metadata things.
Perfect.
Yeah, hearty second on that one. I like just using GitHub releases.
Yeah. So as long as we are surfacing these things from design, hey, we took our border radius from 2 to 3, 3 to 4. Yeah, that we get that in there, and
we can definitely
combine it good
automate
enough.
some of the steps. Like we could connect a bug bot on the old channels, like the developers channel. Whenever we do a design system or design token release, then automatically a message in our matrix is pop like, hey, there's a new release of the design system, and then you do the call out or send a quick email. But yeah.
Cool. I'm just sharing my screen here. I'm just double checking if we had any questions. No, we do not. Okay. Awesome. Okay. Any last thoughts on that? Switch gears. We do not have any community Q&A. So because we're going to share out the video too. If anybody from the community has any questions about the design system, anything we're talking about, we would really welcome to hear any questions that we can answer in this meeting. We want to get more people involved, or at least aligned with what we're doing in the design system, so that we can make other project work easier for everybody to jump into, whether you're new or you've been around for a really long time. Any last lingering thoughts from anybody? Nope. No, Alessandra, I can see you. I just don't have everyone else on the screen. Awesome.
I emote a lot. I know.
That's always good when it's like when we don't come off mute, but we're using different ways to communicate. Okay. Is there a volunteer to run the next meeting in February? In February, we'll be a little bit of an overlap between wrapping up on tokens and moving into talking about versioning and those pieces.
I can do that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So maybe, hopefully, we're gonna have the repository set up and some like release and automation to show and see like if we align on that. Yes.
Yeah, that's the best goal. So yeah, so just to recap on the actions. So everybody give the W3 standards a look, and then we'll make sure that we have consistency across our documentation of what we want to do with the JSON file, and we'll get that repo set up. Cool. God, I'm ahead of time today. Woo! You did great. I will end the recording here. Thanks all.
Thank you.